Socia. I'm an occupational therapist in the school system. I recently transitioned from just a single unit school to now working across district. I'm very passionate about assistive technology, and immediately within like the first couple of months of working within the district, I saw a huge need for more collaboration amongst OTs and ATs. So my project will be talking about enhancing student outcomes with OT and AT using an interdisciplinary approach. Um, so assistive technology, or AT, is a critical tool for helping students with disabilities to be able to participate and succeed in school-based occupations. AT includes everything from simple tools like pencil grips to complex devices like communication systems. Despite its importance, and there's significant gaps that remain across the world. So the World Health Organization indicated that only 10% of the people globally who need assistive technology actually have access to it. So while this statistic is global, it does reflect the systemic challenges that we see in our school systems as well. So factors we might see would be limited resources, inadequate training, and lack of collaboration between the disciplines. And this prevents students from accessing or effectively using their AT. So my capstone is going to address these issues ongoing, not quite there yet, by focusing on the integration of occupational therapy into AT services. Because OTs do bring that unique expertise with sensory, motor, cognitive adaptations, making them a pertinent partner within the process. So AT services in schools often face challenges that limit their effectiveness. First, I noticed that a lot of the disciplines operate in silos. So we have our educators, our specialists, our therapists. Instead of working collaboratively, we kind of see this more at the IEP meetings, but not kind of, I guess, throughout the year as we would like to see. And this lack of communication and teamwork overall reduces the impact of the AT. Additionally, occupational therapy expertise is frequently excluded from AT planning. This includes the evaluation, the provision, and then the training necessary to best support the student. OTs can bring critical skills for addressing sensory, motor, and cognitive barriers, and their exclusion can leave, again, more gaps as far as the design and implementation of the AT. And these challenges directly affect the students because without appropriate AT services, they can experience further academic delays, and frustration, and emotional challenges that will overall hinder their ability to succeed in the school. Addressing these issues is the driving force behind the project. So within the literature review, I noticed that there was 4 key themes. The value of the interdisciplinary approach, using holistic and effective AT implementation, the unique and essential role of OT and AT, and the critical need for access and training for both our staff and our students. And then lastly, the importance of trauma care, trauma-informed care in AT practices. And each of these themes highlight a specific area where improvements are needed. So as far as the interdisciplinary teams in AT, the literature found that interdisciplinary teams are the cornerstone of effective technology implementation. And Beard highlighted that professionals like educators, OTs, speech, PTs, ATs, the list, there's many of us that work together to improve their outcomes. But again, they're more silos and more individually, I guess, working on their own. Each team member brings unique expertise to the table. So, for example, educators provide insight to the students' day-to-day classroom dynamics. Our speech therapists, of course, focus on those communication barriers. OTs, we look at more of the motor and sensory challenges, and then ATs ensure that the technology is set up, the training and functioning correctly. They're often called back for any kind of problem solving or technical difficulties as well. So this collaborative approach ensures that AT solutions are not only functional, but also tailored to the student's specific needs. And without this teamwork, there's the risk of creating solutions that fail to address all aspects of the student's challenges. So the role of OT and AT, we're very important to, I guess, the success of implementation of AT because of our wide scope of practice. We can address a range of different challenges. So an OT might work with a student with fine motor control differences, and we could provide input to adapt a keyboard or recommend an alternative input device. We can also help with sensory sensitivities by looking at environmental modifications or other supplemental tools like noise canceling headphones or proprioceptive input with weighted or compression vest. Um, and then research also shows that OT involvement in AT reduces the risk of device abandonment. This means that students are more likely to use and benefit from the tools, and OTs can also provide additional training for staff and students, ensuring that everyone is involved and understands how to maximize the potential of the technology. Another area of challenge was access and training in AT. Even when AT is available, it's often underutilized due to lack of training, and this problem affects both the staff and the students. Training is essential for helping staff integrate AT into the classroom, ensuring that the students feel confident, and being able to support the families to reinforce AT to use at the house. And this is important too, so that they can generalize those skills across various contexts, not just the school. So for example, a teacher who understands how to use an AAC device can help a student communicate more effectively in the classroom to support their communication goals. And then, like I said, with family training, this can be further supported and generalized. Similarly, students who are trained to troubleshoot their devices can also become more independent and less reliant on teachers and staff to continue use of the AT. Another theme was the trauma-informed care incorporated with assistive technology. Because students with disabilities are disproportionately affected by trauma, this can include experiences like bullying, exclusion, and difficulty communicating their needs. Research highlighted that these experiences can create emotional barriers to learning. And by incorporating trauma-informed strategies, this can help our students feel safe and supported. So for an example, incorporating sensory tools like noise canceling headphones or adapting devices can help ease that frustration for our students while also building emotional resilience. Occupational therapists, play a key role in trauma-informed AT practices, and by addressing the sensory and emotional needs of the student, we can help create environments where students feel confident, leading to ultimately better educational outcomes and making progress towards their IEP goals. This also affects their impact on their educational outcomes because assistive technology has the potential to transform these outcomes for students with disabilities. And it was found that AT interventions can significantly improve areas like written communication, classroom participation, and social inclusion. So for example, a student with limited motor skills who uses a speech generation device can engage in classroom discussions, while a student with fine motor delays might use adaptive writing tools to complete assignments. More often than not, we're transitioning to keyboarding or voice to text because we all know we get the handwriting referrals. Um, these tools not only enhance the academic performance, but also boost their confidence and their independence. And using trauma-sensitive AT practices can further support these students, addressing their emotional needs alongside their academic goals by using a holistic approach. So, following all the literature, I completed a needs assessment to better understand the challenges in the AT services within our department. The primary goals were to identify the current gaps within our services, determine how occupational therapy could address these gaps, and then also understand the types of resources and tools that AT staff would find most helpful. The key holders or the stakeholders in the needs assessment were two ladies in the AT department. So one of them was a multi-department supervisor. I think she also oversees speech and helps with 504. So she's got quite a lot on her plate and many different hats, which we'll get to. And then another participant was the what we just call our AT lady, but she has more of a educational background, so more supporting like snap and read and more trying to think of the word, just more educational focus. During the time of this capstone, there was not a speech therapist involved in the A team or AT team, but in the past there was a speech therapist who used to support more of like the AAC training. So the key findings in the needs assessment found 3 areas of concern. So the participants noted challenges in providing consistent AT support across the district due to limited staffing, and the shortage often left gaps in services, particularly in the large or underserved schools within the district. Also found that while there was some collaboration amongst AT specialists, educators, and other therapists in the district, there was limited involvement with the occupational therapists, and that the participants expressed a desire for better cross-disciplinary training to improve those outcomes. And then lastly, both participants highlighted the need for a comprehensive training manual that could standardize the AT process and provide practical tools for staff. So ultimately, a manual was created and in the works to address the inconsistencies and kind of shaped the rest of my capstone. So the focus of my capstone was to create the training manual and address the identified gaps from the needs assessment. By providing clear and structured guidance, the manual helps standardize AT training and implementation across the schools. By incorporating OT expertise, we could look at addressing sensory, motor, and cognitive challenges and knowing when OT should step in. And then also including tools and resources for our staff to kind of more comprehensively train throughout the district, making it a more standardized process. So the manual highlights the assessing the needs of the student. It includes an overview of AT devices, training modules, timelines, and then progress monitoring. So I have a few slides just kind of briefly showing some of the manual. It is 19 pages so far. I'd like to continue adding to that, but we'll get there. So this first page introduces the section on understanding the needs and the considerations for the student, making sure that the process is individualized and making sure that we're looking at all areas. So this includes motor challenges, sensory processing needs, cognitive needs, communication, what kind of learning preferences they might have, and then any environmental factors that we need to consider. Um, this next page looks at an overview of the general types of assistive technology. There is an abundance of AT and it continues to grow. So this manual was just very generalized to kind of look at the different areas. So maybe areas of communication, mobility aids, or any kind of adaptations for writing. And then the next one, we look at when to consult the OT. This section just offers guidelines for when to involve OTs within the AT decisions. So does the student have any fine motor challenges? Are they making limited progress towards their IEPs, maybe due to motor limitations or sensory processing? Are they displaying any kind of avoidance to the AT or any kind of physical fatigue? I also included a timeline for training. This allows the staff to kind of, again, standardize, and every student is different. I understand that, but to help make the process more efficient and kind of keep everything in order and have expectations from both staff and AT to keep things flowing. I also included progress monitoring and a method to evaluate the effectiveness so that we can see if the students' needs are being met and if any adjustments need to be made. Then next we have staff and student training. So this first one over here is staff, and then this one over here is student. And this page is kind of more so just a checklist of, are they able to complete basic operations? And this is for, of course, AT that is applicable. On the next one, we have the timeline checklist and evaluation checklist. Make sure that we're following the timeline and just following the evaluation process. And again, it won't be 100% standardized because we want that individualized evaluation and assessment as well. And then we have our staff and student feedback survey. I think this is important to make sure that staff is understanding the training and if they need other further guidance. And then if appropriate, this could be completed with the student as well. And then lastly, I created some tools for progress monitoring. That way we can track the student's success and evaluate the outcomes to see if we need to refine anything and continue supporting their IEP goals with AT. So as far as the outcomes of the project, the primary outcome was, of course, the training manual, where the plan was to address the gaps that were identified within the needs assessment. However, the feedback was informal due to their limited availability and just different responsibilities. They have a lot on their plate. I think I heard by September they were up to 90 referrals already, which is like blows my mind. However, I did get some more thorough feedback from another OT within the department who has a high interest in AT as well. So I felt like she could relate and give me some good information. And then in conclusion, this capstone project demonstrates the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration within our AT services and how OTs can play a critical role in addressing those various areas such as sensory and motor and cognitive challenges. Some implications of the project. The manual definitely will need to continue to grow and expand. It also emphasizes the importance of trauma-sensitive care, and I'd like to expand more on that as well. While this manual has more of an OT lens. Again, we are running an interdisciplinary approach, so I'd like to continue to be able to get more feedback from speech therapists and physical therapists. We even have our hearing and audiology specialists. So I'd like to get everybody involved and hopefully have a nice, very thick manual that can be shared across the district. And looking ahead, I'd also would like the opportunity to get more input from our AT staff, and then also start providing some professional development opportunities to review and kind of share the manual and help them feel more confident and see what areas that they might need more support in. And then also just provide more opportunities to collaborate amongst all disciplines. My department supervisor is thankfully very on board with this. She loves a problem solver, and she's looking forward to possibly this next semester working with me to get some professional development opportunities with AT, speech, and PT. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, that was great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll open it up for questions. I have some, but well, you know what? Tam, I'm going to go first if that's okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So I think it's important just to highlight how large the district is that you're working in. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because it's enormous.
So our district is, I think there was like 90 schools. So I believe it was a merge between city and county at some point. So it's massive. We have, I think they said at the beginning of the year, it was probably over 1,000 students with OT services. And that's almost, I would say, low because our department's been really big on pushing tier interventions and early interventions to minimize the caseload. But on top of that, combine those students with how many of those need AT, and then how many of those students who don't have OT have AT, more of our speech babies. So it's massive. And mind you, again, that the department is only 2, possibly 3 individuals at this time.
And how many OTs are in the district?
We have, I think, about 20.
Okay. So this is a massive undertaking for you to even initiating this in this size of a district. I am like in awe of even like getting that started. Like for
Yeah,
you, just is an amazing thing, an amazing opportunity for the district that you're in too. So thank you.
thanks. I'm excited to see where it goes. I mean, like I said, I wish I could get more feedback. And I'm trying to wiggle and worm my way into the AT department because, and I want to thank my coworkers for listening to my rants over and over because I get triggered often. And I'm like, exactly, this is why, OT and PT needs to be involved. Where's the motor component in these assessments? So it's extremely frustrating, and I have a very strong department supervisor who's going to help me push. So hopefully we get there.
So awesome. So awesome. Thank you.
So Diane, you stole my question, or yeah, I have the same question. So when I heard you say there were 100 buildings, it was like, whoa, that is a lot of buildings. So the other follow-up question I have is, are is it a unique position to have both an OT background and an AT background? And do you know offhand, like, how many people are out there in the United States that kind of have this unique blend?
As far as OT and AT, you see it more with like positioning and mobility, maybe more like home and environmental modifications. I see more ATPs with speech therapists, really working more on the AAC side. But again, it's just like it blows my mind. Like, where's the motor? Because it's such a huge component, or even our sensory processing. Um, but within our department, I know we have one physical therapist that has her APT. And again, she does more positioning, and I think she helps with the transportation department a lot as well. Um, but does that answer your question? I feel like there's another one, but I can't remember.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if you have any sense across the nation, like how significant is this collaboration, and it certainly is a need. And so the question is how many people really are out there working as OTs and
In AT.
in AT, yeah.
I have a RESNA membership, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I remember just briefly scrolling through, and I do see a lot of more PTs and speech therapists that have their additional certification. But my passion stemmed from making switch adapted toys I used to work with medically complex kiddos in home health. And I loved it. I loved adapting. I love making something out of nothing. And I want to be able to bring that, within the school system as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great, great, great thing to talk about and to bring awareness to and really focus in on that. And I'll just share, I mean, this was years ago. I was in early intervention with a classroom of children with significant motor and
Mhm.
cognitive issues. And I was the OT, but I was the consultant that only came in once a week.
Oh,
And yeah, and they almost all had AT communication. But to be honest, I would be clueless. I mean, I don't really know enough about the AT that I could have provided a whole lot of um, help or assistance.
yeah.
And
What I
yeah,
noticed too was what sparked all of this was I sat in on an evaluation. I think it was probably my second month joining the district. And, they assessed educational needs, they assessed the communication needs. But what did they do? The DeCoste writing protocol. So they were looking at handwriting as well. But I was like, the student's not sitting in, a proper chair to desk height. There was a lot going on in the room. They were very inattentive. Like I didn't feel like it was an accurate picture. And even then, as far as their training process is often the AT lady would just drop off the equipment. There was not much training involved. And even then, looking at the position of the devices, is it ergonomic? Looking at if it's a mounted device, is it the right eye level, or, are they straining their neck, or considering any kind of contractions or physical limitations. Like I said, it's very passionate, or I'm very passionate, and I get triggered very easily about it.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for all of your work.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's anybody else. I'm gonna go next if you don't mind. Hi, Jess. I'm Dana Richmond. I'm also in this cohort. I present tomorrow. I feel like we didn't ever really got to connect, but I also looked at assistive technology literature as well. So it's nice to like formally meet you, I guess, on the screen. But I feel like we should connect after this is
Yeah,
over.
absolutely.
Because I think you and I could like really get together and work on some things together. So um I I adjunct for an assistive technology course at a public university.
Okay.
And so we actually have an assistive technology class for our entry-level doctorate program where I teach. And so I looked at taking assistive technology into schools and daycares, and we work with non-traditional level one sites. So there's actually no OT present in these communities, and we do a lot of service learning just because we're in a very a lot of underinsured population, things like that. But this was amazing, and I can't believe that you have such a large district. And I hear you speak, and it's so true. And I feel like, I can kind of relate a little bit to what Tam is saying also, is like I found too that OTs aren't really super comfortable with AT either. And so if they don't have this ATP certification, we've kind of found that they kind of shy away. And so I think that this manual would be super helpful because it would make it very usable and like user friendly for people
Mhm.
who maybe looks like it's very step by step, like how to use AT for for everybody, but specifically for OTs. But I kind of found in my research that people are just nervous to use AT because they don't feel like they have the expertise. But no one's ever going to get the expertise if they don't want to try, right? You have to start somewhere.
It
So
can
I
be
think,
very daunting. There's a lot of
yeah,
areas, and again, it's constantly evolving and lots to learn. It's not like I'm staying up late researching all the newest, but I'm constantly thinking like, oh, this is the problem. What's out there? Let me do a quick search, and more often than
yeah.
not, there's something.
Yeah. No, so it's amazing. So I guess it's not really a question, but more of like I hear you. I agree with you. I think that this is great. Would love to, see if there's some, working together in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think, yeah, this is definitely a need, and um yeah, awesome. Really good job, but very daunting to have such a large district, and good for you. I mean, but like you said, you have to kind of start somewhere, and this seems like a really great. I might have missed the beginning, and I apologize, but who makes up the AT team then in the district if it's
So the AT is just two, maybe three individuals. So we have um,
okay,
someone with an educational background.
okay,
We have just the department supervisor, but she oversees a plethora and
right,
has
right, running.
many hats. And then we possibly have a speech therapist
I understand.
replaced for
It sounds crazy to me like you as the OT with your ATP is like not automatically on this team, right? So like that seems
And mind
also
you, like, I don't want to, hair flip and say I have a
right.
certification,
No, but
but
it's
these
true.
individuals just have, I'm not going to undermine their experience. They learned,
No.
they have more years, but they don't have that certification. They don't have, that extensive background. And I'm
And the
constantly,
hours that you had to put in to even sit for the exam, right? Like not only is it this exam, but the hours that you need to put in to even qualify to sit for that exam, right? I mean, I don't maybe, and again, it might just also be like awareness of what this certification is that you have. People don't necessarily even really know. Um, and hopefully, like me as a adjunct professor in universities, ACODE has a AT standard, and so we're teaching this
right.
class like meet this, but it's a large standard. Like it's
Mhm.
very daunting, also even for the standard for the class. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's this is definitely a need. So awesome, really nice job.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and Suzanne, I see you in the chat. Yeah, that would be. Oh, did she leave? She might have left, but she said we should involve her in our
Yes,
meetup.
we'll have
So
to connect.
great. Awesome. Congratulations. Awesome job.
Thank you so much, Jess. I'm so, so glad you chose to follow your passion. So glad. I'm so happy for you. And that was great. So thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to stop recording.